Hey, Carly.
Hey, y'all there?
Hello.
Hey,
Everybody here?
yep.
Hey.
All right.
Hey,
And we are recording, so yay.
Yay.
How's everybody doing?
great. How are y'all?
I've been sitting in this same spot since 9 o'clock this morning.
Oh, wow.
Tell me you were not writing task 5.
Oh, no, well, I'm doing a little bit of that, but most of it's schoolwork because I have to work 6 hours from home. And like,
Well, I'm still working because
What?
our kids are picking their learn from home packets up tomorrow.
so
and
but you've gotten to go to school, right?
The past 2 Friday, yesterday, and today, that because our kids are still on break, but
Mhm.
tomorrow's their pickup day, and it's just been frantic.
Do you get to go to school tomorrow? I mean, after they pick up, can y'all go back to the building after that?
We can do work from home. We're allowed to work there, and we're allowed to work from home. So I'm going to do a combination until
you
probably
can't go to
until they tell us
school?
we can't. Yeah.
See, we can't go to school. We're not allowed in the building unless they tell us we are. What about you, Carly?
Yeah, I'm home. We had to do a Zoom today.
What did you do today?
Doing all our IEP meetings from home over Zoom or what's that, Google Meet thing?
Google Meet,
Mhm.
yeah.
Setting up our classrooms, but yeah, everything is fully on at home now. There's no going back to school. I went Monday. I went yesterday to get some files.
Yeah, we were able to do that.
About an hour and a half, but that's it.
Yep, that's how we are. And John just said that Mecklenburg County just got a stay-at-home order. So just be
Wow.
prepared. I don't know for y'all, it may not matter. Durham, us, me, Carly and I, it might. Because last time Mecklenburg moved, we did the exact same thing.
Mhm.
So we might be really at home. We're closed till May 15th.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, oh, that's right. It's across the state. That's right.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, well, we ought to be able to finish this course with no problem.
That's true.
Yeah, like it's unbelievable. I'm looking like, wow. When you look at task 5, it's kind of like, okay, this is really nothing compared to everything we've done so far.
It really, I'm almost finished. It's not bad.
Right.
I've written everything I wanted to write, but I wanted to go back and look at the exemplar because I think in the rubric it talks about it being research based.
I don't think so.
Okay,
I think what they're
good.
talking about research is they're talking about just stuff that you've learned along the way.
Right. So I didn't know. I know you and I talked about this, Debbie, at some point. Like, did we, like you were saying, you were going to just make references to things you learned about this or that and not necessarily do any in-text citations and that kind of thing.
I'm not doing any of that. All I'm doing, because I went back and read what the rubric said, and the rubric says they just want us to go back and reflect on what we did, how what we did meets that criteria. So that's what I've done, is I've just talked about either through my PLC or through my internship, the things that I've specifically done that met that requirement. And I also printed them off of, it looks like this. And I just went in and it's the North Carolina Standards for School Executives. And the last 2 pages have all of the competencies with the description of them. So if you want that, if you can't find it, I couldn't find it anywhere else. So I just printed it off of there, and that was really helpful. So that's just FYI if y'all want it.
I found it with the description somewhere, and I did print that and work from that. But I feel like I had to use a couple different places to get them all. I can't remember. Y'all, my brain is
running together this time. That's how I feel. I don't know about y'all, but I feel like everything's running together between
Yes.
internship, my class. I mean, everything. I'm like, okay, now what was I doing like 5 minutes ago? Because I'm trying to feel like I'm juggling.
Yeah.
Plus being department chair. So now I have to run a department meeting tomorrow, a Zoom meeting tomorrow. So figuring out all that. Crazy.
This talk about the case study, I think should be pretty quick.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Want to do case study 1 first?
I haven't read 2. Are we going to do 2 at the same time?
Oh, I thought we were, but we don't have to.
Both. Yeah, I did. Yeah, I did both of them.
Okay. Well, I can probably read 2 when we get finished talking about this, kind of read along as we're doing it.
Either one. All righty. So the principal of this guy was the instructional leader. Now I've got to review what it was. Now I can't remember what it was all about, the first one.
I just read it last night, so it's fresh if you want me to talk about it.
Okay. Yeah, I do, because I can't remember all of a sudden.
So the first question says, what do you think of the way James handled his particular situation considering his limited background? I thought it was perfect. Like, I think, I'm in that cohort for my county where, like, it's really awesome. They meet all the admin from, like, our county office meets with us one at a time. Anybody who thinks they want to be an administrator, even if you're not serious enough to start classes or anything, and they tell us like what their job is, and it covers all those standards. And this is the kind of stuff they talk about. And one of the big things is, like, in our county, they like for people to work on different levels. So you're going to be doing things that you don't know anything about. Like, y'all have talked about, well, I don't really know anything about elementary reading. And same thing with me with middle and high school stuff. And so he just basically said, this is not my area of expertise. So I want to be honest with you about that. And I'm going to need support, but here's what I think we should do. And then allowed them to give input. Like, I think that's perfect.
Yeah, and I think too, the thing he did is he empowered by telling people up front that this was his weakness or this was an area of expertise. He empowered those people to take ownership of it and to run with it and to use their knowledge. So when we, like, as administrators, we're not going to know everything, but we're going to have to empower others to use their knowledge, their leadership, and all of that to take on areas that we don't know. Because that's what I would do if I was an elementary admin. I would have no clue.
Right.
So I would do my own research, but then I would also have to depend on other people to help me. And I think his honesty was his best policy. I mean, he was just up front. He didn't try to cover it up.
I also stated that I really admired that he acted like a leader and not a manager by opening up the door for his staff to provide the suggestions and participate in the problem-solving process rather than simply dictate actions he felt needed to be taken.
Right.
Yep.
And by opening up the concerns as a discussion, he established a sense of shared responsibility with his staff and finding ways to address the reading problem at the school.
Yeah.
But I think too, showing his vulnerabilities got the staff on his side. I mean, he showed his vulnerabilities and they were like, oh my gosh, he was so popular. Everybody wanted to help him.
Yeah.
He was a likable guy. So he used that to his advantage too, his popularity.
Yeah, that's true.
All righty. Number 2 says, are we done with 1?
I think so.
I think so too.
All right. What more could be done to help the reading scores in this school?
Well, I put that James, he might want to consider implementing a school-wide reading intervention block into the school schedule so students can receive structured reading instruction daily. And that kind of goes back to my own personal experience where that's something that my administrator actually has in place. It's called curriculum assistance. And based on the students' abilities, they are pretty much placed or assigned to a reading intervention program, whether it's iReady or Reading Plus or corrective reading, that focuses on building their skills in their area based on their level of need. And it's a daily intervention. So every day the student is going to have that need addressed, and the intervention is going to be utilized with fidelity.
One thing they didn't talk about, but it sounds kind of like they were doing it, was just naming, like having a PLC specifically devoted to their reading
Yeah.
improvement. They didn't, but it talked about the teachers meeting and, you know, that kind of thing. But I don't know. I guess if we're applying what we've learned, that would be important.
Yeah. And I, I said, I would have also added in, I agreed with what he did, but I would have added in some professional development in reading and literacy, pulled that in, you know, and they have school-wide professional development across all departments, teams, however they do that. And then I said at the elementary level, because I wasn't sure what, it kind of looked like it was a K-12 school maybe, I wasn't sure. And I said, at the elementary level, I would have incorporated grade level competitions for additional reading inside and outside the classroom. At the middle school level, I would focus on extra opportunities to incorporate reading and literacy strategies into the day, maybe something similar to Drop Everything and Read, but with a 21st century twist in it. And then at the high school level, I would have a monthly theme for books, like maybe mysteries one month, something else another month, nonfiction. And we'll also have the students recommend book titles for each genre and post the list on the school website to promote reading. Maybe even have teachers form book clubs throughout the school so students see the teachers are focused on reading and literacy too. So those are just things that I thought of that maybe would be possibilities of thing they could, you know, a direct focus school-wide on literacy.
Yep.
My only concern would be are the students like foundational skills really the area of concern? Because if so, then you really got to focus your efforts on building those skills. You know what I mean? Whereas like book clubs and stuff like that, that's more or less like if your students maybe are performing below, you know, expectations, but not significantly low. You know what I mean? School have students that are like kindergarten and they're in 8th grade. So a book club is not really going to help them. But if we can teach them phonics and decoding skills, like with the corrective reading, then it won't get them to 8th grade, but it'll help build those skills that we recognize, you know, basic syllable words. So I was just kind of drawing on my own personal experiences because coming from high school and then coming to middle school, yeah, like I taught math too in high school. And so when I came to middle school, like 2 or 3 years ago, and I seen students were like reading at kindergarten in 7th grade, I was like astonished because I've never experienced that before. So all these programs kind of came into play for me now and seeing like, wow, there really are measures, you know, that address these specific areas.
That's good. I've taught science and math and CE my entire life, so reading is not
mine either. Yeah,
it's not a strength of mine. I mean, I don't know all the stuff, so that would definitely be an area that I need to brush up on because reading and I mean, I've taught history. I could probably teach that fine, but reading like all that ins and outs of how they teach reading now, I've done it before, but probably it was back in the 90s. So I'm telling my age.
No, but see, then everything, the curriculum was designed differently back then too. Even with me, like you learn phonetics and phonics.
Oh, phonetics. That's how my kids learn to read and write.
Yeah, it's like sight word based now. So most of the time that's used as a corrective measure. Like with my students, like I said, they're significantly below expectations. So they have to go back somewhat to the basics, which is kind of sad. You know, like we're only doing it the right way now when you have problems learning it, you know, the way we're now experimenting.
I just think if we go back to the basics, we'd probably be fine. Go back to phonetics and all that.
I mean, we're real heavy phonics based. We do a lot of that. Yeah.
All righty. Number 3. What additional resources could James utilize to help the school improve?
I mean, mine kind of is redundant. I said read intervention programs, I kind of went into some research. I already reading 4 to 5 days per week for at least 30 minutes. A 2012 study, Farmington Elementary School in Culpeper, Virginia, indicated that consistent use of the program for 30 minutes, 4 to 5 days a week, shows 75 to 88% improvement in Tier 2 students, where these students previously did not pass the reading standardizer test this exam. They actually passed it that current school year with the use of the intervention program. So, I've seen some improvements with this use, so that would probably be my recommendation across the board. Implement some type of reading intervention program across the school-wide system and based on the students' abilities. If certain students, may not require them, turn into like an enrichment period where they're like doing project-based learning and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I think it didn't. The only staff member besides just the classroom teachers that it talked about, him relying on was a reading teacher.
Mm-hmm.
So there are other people who could be important contributors, like your ESL person.
Mm-hmm.
There's probably admin positions above him. If he has a Title I person, which could be the reading teacher, but sometimes there's more than one position.
Literacy coach.
Yeah. So, and even an instructional coach, I would think that maybe they would try to pair an AP or an instructional coach that does have some reading background with a principal that doesn't. Mm-hmm. So, I think there may be more support than he's utilized for, from just within the system.
Yeah. And I guess my thing is too, just because I'm more, I guess, of a support person, I'm thinking is, have access to 2 more novels and things like that. So I said, create a parent reading support team that would be responsible for fundraising for class sets of novels, maybe author visits, and any online reading resources that would help to enhance the reading program. And then also have them incorporate literacy strategies across all disciplines, not just in reading, but making sure we're incorporating across the board. And also, I think the media specialist, bringing the media specialist into the program, just ensuring that there are periodicals that are available to the students in all subject matters. And also making sure that the media center is a location within the school that's accessible and welcoming for all the students throughout the day. So, just exposure sometimes to kids may even bring about some change. I mean, I understand there's kids who are way below reading level and need, that kind of thing, but just for your kids who maybe are even just at grade level, if they have exposure to resources and things, that may help them pick up more knowledge for other things.
And a couple of real important pieces, and I think one is just having an environment where, so like Carly, you mentioned you have middle schoolers that are reading on a really low level. It's real important for them to have privacy about that, because it can be very shameful for them that they're struggling so much. And a lot of times if they're reading at a level so much lower than where they should be, there's a disability there that's, preventing them. And so just making sure that your kids are approached and taught in a way that they can be private and be made to feel good about their progress. And I mean, just think about if you're an 8th grader, just the fact that you're holding a book that looks like it's made for a 5-year-old is embarrassing.
Right.
Even if you're by yourself. But if that's exposed to your peers, I just think that's a real important piece, is just having respect for those kids and making sure those things are considered. And then also, and this was in the research that I read too, like you're talking about, Debbie, making materials appealing to them. So like one thing that people don't think about for kids, I mean, kids all the way through high school still like to be read to.
Mm-hmm.
They like for somebody
We
to
have
read
teachers.
a story to them.
Yep. I did it
And
in my class.
yeah, it doesn't have to be a picture book. It can be a chapter book. It can be a novel. It can be whatever. But kids like that, and that is something that is so missing today. It is
Mm-hmm.
Picture books are missing for our young kids.
Young children. Mm-hmm.
Kids don't read for enjoyment anymore because there's so many things that are have so much more instant gratification for them.
Yep.
And it's hard to keep kids entertained with a book when a lot of what they use has lights and sound and
Mm-hmm.
Constant movement, and a book is not that way. So when they can see a person bring a book to life, that really makes them more interested in books. And then also just letting them see that. I used to do this when I taught kids above kindergarten, making sure, like, their parents would say to me, I don't think they care if they learn to read or not. Like, they're just not interested. So I would say, you got to find books that have to do with what they like.
Well, and I think too, one of the sad things that we see is, especially in education, because we're kind of doing it to ourselves, is we push technology so much about how much we want them to get on the computer and do this and do that, which is great. Yes, we do need to learn technology, but there is something to be said about holding that book and looking at those pictures or listening to somebody read to you, that also is just as important as getting on a computer and typing.
Oh, yeah.
So I agree, because I read, when I taught third grade, I read to my third graders. We always had a book going. And when I taught high school, my child development classes, I read to them all the time. Like I read my favorite one, I read, that one, I Love You. Oh, I Love You Forever.
I Like You for Always.
Yes.
Yep.
I would read that to them. I mean, like all kinds of kid books like that, but things also that had to do with parenting and being a parent, being special needs kids. I read those to them. So we always had something like that going. And that was so much fun. But they did like it. So that is a really good point.
In our school, read out loud is pretty much, I don't want to say the requirement, but it's encouraged because our students have varied reading abilities. To really, build their comprehension is kind of mandated. Like we're reading Animal Farm now. And so me and my co-teacher, we popcorn and we add a little bit of comedy to it.
Exactly.
And the students love it. And then we'll actually do like the higher order thinking, guided questions, application questions together as a class. And we find that they actually increase their understanding.
What grade are you doing Animal Farm in?
8th.
Okay, because we do it in 9th.
8th grade.
We do it in 9th at Wake County.
I think we did 9th grade in Fayetteville when I was in Cumberland. We did The Most Dangerous Game, short stories like that. The emphasis in the shorter literary texts than the long ones. And what was the other one? The movie with the girl. Oh my God, The Hunger Games.
Yes.
Games too, but yeah, I noticed that. And like you said, Jennifer, where it kind of takes away the shame, where the student is more on the content and participate in the learning experience rather than, oh my goodness, I don't know what this word is. And, I don't want to be involved. I'm going to put my head down. This is something I can't do. That kind of takes away from the enjoyment,
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and that's great that you're doing that, because then they're getting to practice comprehension skills that are way beyond what they're able to practice when they're actually doing the reading.
Right. And I think our biggest emphasis is we notice we have a lot of deficits with fluency.
Mm-hmm.
So that fluency for our students and showing them how you pause at a period and, what exclamation points mean, excitement, they need to see those things,
Yep.
A lot of our students, like I said, their exposure to books is very limited. When they leave the classroom, it's like they throw it on the ground. They're like, okay, tomorrow.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. All right, you want to go to 4?
Sure.
It says, what could he be sacrificing, if anything, by placing extraordinary emphasis only on the reading program?
Mm,
I just said that I do not feel that James would be sacrificing anything by placing an emphasis on reading in general. Reading is involved in every discipline. I said James will need to be creative as he visits and talks with all the teacher groups. He needs to follow through with making sure that the teacher groups are incorporating reading and literacy strategies into their daily plans. There needs to be teacher conversations throughout the school, sharing ideas about how teachers are emphasizing reading throughout their curriculums. Teacher buy-in will be extremely important as James attempts to develop strong student readers. Because he's going to have buy-in from everybody if he wants to really build a true reading program.
Yeah.
I agree. Debbie, I stated the same thing. Emphasize that James is correct for focusing attention on the most pressing need, which is to increase student reading proficiency. By addressing this need, he is building a foundation for increased learning in all other areas, because reading is the fundamental skill needed to comprehend and analyze information.
Yeah, I agree too. I think that you're, like you said, Debbie, you're not gonna lose by focusing on reading, because you need reading for every subject. But I will say, typically when you see, and this may be different at at middle and high school, because they're departmentalized, but in an elementary school, a lot of times what happens is, or it can even be a whole school system, like, okay, where our readers are struggling, or our kids are struggling in math, and they really do a lot of implementation to help those things. Whatever they're not focusing on falls a little bit. Mm-hmm. And then a few years later, it's the reverse. Like, oh, okay, well, now we're going to have to focus on our math, because we've been putting so much time into reading, and our math scores have fallen. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
So typically, because there's only so much time in the day, anytime you put a heavy emphasis on one thing, the other things fall. However, with reading, it's I think it's the least of the evils on that, because your science and your social studies are coming, you're having text for those as well.
Yeah.
So reading is less likely to invade on the space of your other subject areas, as if you were having to focus a lot of time and attention on math, for example.
And if you're doing Common Core math, that is so much reading.
That's right.
Problem solving.
Yep. So it can't hurt to do it, but I agree with you, because I remember that was a big issue when I taught third, was, okay, how am I going to get all of this done in one day? Science, and that's back, and I think they do it differently now, but that's back when we had to teach science, social studies, math, and reading every day.
Mm-hmm.
You had to allot time for that every day, and we still had recess, and we had PE. We had all of that, so incorporating all that was very interesting.
Yeah.
Well, case study 1.
Yay.
So now, what are we supposed to do with that? He said, write a 1-page paper. On what?
I think it was either or. It was either conduct the Zoom link and I guess share that as evidence of the discussion, or actually compose in a written narrative.
Really?
I thought we had to do both.
I did too, but I haven't looked at that in a while.
I haven't either, so I'll look at that.
Oh, Carly, I hope you're right.
I hope you're right.
I do think you know what? I think we have to, because when I downloaded case 2 onto my laptop so I could read through it as we were talking, there was a form, a case study 2 download, and I think you include the link to this Zoom discussion.
Yep, we have to include the link to the Zoom. I saw that.
Well, I don't know if we also have to type something in on that or not. I didn't open it. I just saw where it was there.
We have to send our answers, I know. So I wonder if we just send our answers in the Zoom. We can look it up and see.
Yeah. But if we're going to do a case 2 discussion, should we start a new Zoom?
We probably should.
So that the link is different, because I'm sure he doesn't want to have to sift through
the whole thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
So when do y'all want to do that?
Well, I've been trying to kind of read through this as we were talking, but can y'all give me like 5 minutes and I'll just
Yeah, because I can go ahead and do this recording and do the YouTube thing, and then we can start another one. Just tell us when you're ready. You want to do that, Carly? Is that good for
Can
you?
we just text y'all
That's
when I'm
fine.
ready? Because I'll jot my answers down and then I can type them up later.
Okay,
That's
let's do
fine.
that. And then I can go ahead and download and put this one on YouTube.
That's fine. Or if y'all want, y'all tell me. I mean, I
That's
can
fine with
be
me.
ready in like 10
I
minutes.
just as soon get it over because I'm about going to be Zoomed and Google Meeted out by the
Yes.
end of this week.
I'll just text y'all in a few minutes because, like I said, I'm almost finished reading it and I just need to jot some thoughts about the questions down and then I'll text you both. Is that good?
Yeah, that's
That'll
good.
work.
That
Okay.
works. All righty.
All right.
See ya. Bye.
Bye.